In this video, we have got a 100 plus kill game with, as you can see, the full gold MG42 on Arras Conquest. As always, stick around in this video. In just a moment's time, I'm going to flash up the specializations on screen, talk about what I use and why. We'll then get into the pros and cons of this gun, and in effect, how to play to get the high kill games on Aras. So, flashing the specializations up on screen, you can see we have the recoil buffer, extended belt, chrome lining, and quick reload, which is going to be 1 on the left and 3 on the right. So the first spec presents a choice between lower vertical recoil or an increased bullet velocity by 10%. Of course, I've chosen to go with the lower vertical recoil, with the MG42 being one of the guns with the fastest fire rates in the game and therefore packs a punch with a good amount of recoil. It's definitely a gun you only want to use in close to medium range. As a result, you do not see much benefit of having an increased bullet velocity, because increased bullet velocity is normally best when bullet drag and bullet velocity drops off at those longer distances, and you therefore want to track long distance targets. If you do not take the lower vertical recoil spec, then of course it's going to be much harder for you to use this gun at long range and to even therefore benefit from an increased bullet velocity. Therefore, lower recoil is the way to go on the first specialization. Now looking to the second and third spec choices, on the right we have got an increased ammo capacity or belt going up to 250 rounds from 50 rounds, with the third specialization after this being chrome lining, which is going to reduce your gun from overheating by up to 33%, so therefore you can fire longer before the gun overheats. A pretty good combination. On the left side, you are firstly presented with an increased fire rate, increasing the fire rate up to 1,200 rounds per minute, being up there joint with a Type 2A for the fastest fire rates in Battlefield 5. And the third specialization, which comes after this, is going to be a reduced muzzle flash. So as fun as it may be, or may sound, to have a gun with 1,200 rounds per minute, the fact that you would only have 50 rounds in the gun when using this specialization side of the tree is not really an option, because the super high recoil really limits you in being able to get multiple kills per mag with only 50 rounds. You're going to find yourself only getting 1 or 2 kills, and you will die a lot even though you're using a gun which you feel like or should be able to use it to mow down so many enemies, probably more so than any other MMG. That incredibly high amount of recoil can kill you because you won't be able to get kills fast enough, and of course will run out of ammo with only 50 rounds. The third specialization when going on the left is also pretty useless. Muzzle flash is not worth using on anything, especially on an MMG, which is going to be firing over 980 rounds per minute, because every single person in the map who is within any close distance to you is going to hear and know exactly where the gunshots are coming from, so muzzle flash is kind of pointless. Therefore, the right side having 250 rounds is perfect, because you can run around, run and gun and hip fire with the weapon, like you'll see me do many times throughout this video, as well as having 33% more time to be able to shoot the gun before it overheats. Again, goes hand in hand, so an easy specialization choice for the second and third one, to be honest. And lastly, we have the fourth and final specialization choice, which I may as well not even talk about, because it's going to be a quicker reload by 15% versus increased damage against aircraft. You might as well try and snipe people out of planes. There's no point in trying to shoot planes with an MMG where you're not going to hardly hit any bullets at it or do hardly any damage. So absolutely go all the way with a quicker reload. Okay, so moving on to the pros and cons of the MG42. Firstly, starting with the cons, of course the biggest one is going to be the incredible amount of recoil. It makes the gun pretty unusable at long range. At medium range it can become tough, and there are times where you will get caught out even at close range with the randomness of the recoil in this game, and it will obviously get you killed before you can get that second or third kill and switch sights, because you'll end up firing way more bullets than you think to try and get a kill. Now, if I can be totally honest, this is probably the only main disadvantage of this gun. The other disadvantages, of course, are going to be the fact that it's an MMG and you can only aim down your sights when you're using the bipod, which means you have to stand stationary and therefore become an easy target to hit. But this is the same for all MMGs in the game, but in terms of normal characteristics and other things about the gun, it pretty much is going to be the fact that it has a really high amount of recoil. If we then list some of the pros of the gun, 250 rounds being, up there with the most amount of ammo capacity in the game, the fire rate of 980 and 1200 also being up there with the fastest fire rates in the game, which will mean you have an incredibly fast time to kill. The reload time is pretty quick for a tactical reload, and even for an empty reload it's still pretty quick, but you're pretty much never going to be doing empty reloads when you're using this gun because you've got 250 rounds and you're always going to have enough time to reload it before you're out of ammo. And of course, lastly, it's worth mentioning the hip fire, which isn't the best in the game out of all the MMGs. The S2200 and the VGO are probably slightly better. The S2200, of course, being my absolute favourite and super fun gun to run around and hip fire with. But as you've seen in this video, as well as the last stream, the hip fire on this gun is more than usable thanks to having 250 rounds. If you do stand behind cover or lean around cover when you're hip firing, then of course you give yourself a lot more time to be able to miss loads of bullets, which you will do while hip firing, and you'll stay alive longer because of course you'll be behind cover and the enemy will have a smaller target to hit, therefore also missing a lot more bullets. So the hip fire is more than usable and you can run around, run and gun and get lots of hip fire kills with this gun. So that pretty much just about covers the pros and cons of the MG42, and it's probably worth talking about the sight which I'm using, or which sight is the best to use. Of course, you can see in this gameplay, as well as the two other 100 plus kill games I got with the MG42 on Operation Underground, I am using the iron sight. I do think that the reflex sight might be slightly better for two factors. The first one being that the body of the gun is slightly lower down and therefore blocking less of the screen, as well as the visual recoil appearing less due to zoom levels, and although the recoil is exactly the same, sometimes on some guns even just having less visual recoil helps you with your recoil control and therefore how much you're pulling down on thumbsticks. However, I do like to use the iron sight. There's some guns in this game, or in World War II games in general, which I get nostalgic for, and I feel like you just have to use the iron sight. It's very unique, and on other guns as well, maybe such as the STG-44, I just can't use anything else other than the iron sight. I remember back to games such as the old Call of Duties, World at War as the main example, or even games back on the PlayStation 2, such as Medal of Honor, where I'd use these guns in their base form with the iron sights, and it just makes me happy using them like that. So that's why on these guns here I am using the iron sight. Okay, so moving on and talking about Arras, the map itself, and of course how to play it to get a high amount of kills whenever you play this map. This is my second ever 100 kill game on Arras, but I have had multiple times where I've had 90 plus, even 99 with other guns such as the M1 Garand, and mainly multiple cases when playing the Scout class using the M3 Infrared. The number one way I would say to consistently get high kills and to top the leaderboard on Arras is going to be by playing the Scout class. This is simply because you can get a spawn beacon to be able to place around the center of the map to basically eliminate the amount of running time which you need from all those flags that are out in the open fields around the center of the map, and therefore you can get back to the action quicker and get more kills. However, if you want to play any sort of class, the best thing you can do on Arras to be able to find and get the most amount of kills, stay alive longer, to be in action, more often than not, and not to get bored when playing this map, it's simply going to be staying on basically where that road is now, where I'm getting kills. That's a straight line road from the church behind me all the way down to the British, or German spawn rather, of B flag. You pretty much want to stay on this straight line, not on that road because it's too open, but as an example, on that straight line from B flag down there to the church, and that's where all the the houses are, the close quarters areas where most enemies are going to go. A lot of players in this game nowadays like to play aggressive and they're going to stay in these areas. and that's where everybody's going to run to try and find kills and get back in the action. You know, nobody wants to stand out in the open on all the flags around the center of the map and get killed by tanks, planes, and just any sort of vehicles. So yeah, definitely stay down the center line of this map and you will find plenty of kills. The main thing is, of course, trying to stay alive as much as you can, because for every death it's a lot of time wasted in the death screen, in the spawn screen, and also running to get back to the center of the map and get back in the action. But yeah, that's kind of pretty much all you need to know and what you want to do on Arras. I will leave the final 3 minutes here of the video for you to enjoy. Please smash a like for me, because this is a bonus video this week, and I will see you on the next one.
Grenade out!
Objective easy is ours now. Objective box has been lost to the enemy. Objective easy is lost.
Gonna need an artillery barrage soldier right away.
No